My English name is Thorne LaPointe. It's good to be here today. It's an honor to be here on this day, Memorial Day, to come and share our songs as singers. The song we're going to sing is an honor song. It was one of the very first songs that was taught to us by our mentor, our teacher, who taught us these good ways of life. And it's a story, he said, it is about Hichita, a warrior. In this song, he had passed on, but the people could hear singing in the night. They could hear his voice, as the story goes, from their sacred encampment. They heard it through the night. And in this song, he was saying that he loved his way of life. And he was telling the people to look at him. And so it's a song that was meant to help the people remember these good ways of life. It was a song from the warrior. This is a song that we wanted to share with you. We just walked up and already we're up here kicking it off. Just on time, right?
Right on time.
Thank you. I want to say again, Wobla Kanka for having us here. And it's an honor. It's a good honor for us. Our drum group is called Ringing Shoe. Our great grandfather, Wahat Bakwa, that's his name.
Get organized. Hey, thanks so much for all of you coming out today, you brave souls. You know, we never canceled a war because of rain, so we can't cancel the war. Thanks for coming out. A little bit worried how this is going to work out. We started out, we were going to go out in the rain over here, but just so happened there was a group. How's my sound? That's all right. So there just so happened there was a group over here they had a sound system and stuff set up, and I came over to see what was happening. And they were going to ring that Liberty Bell for the very first time that's ever been rung. And that's why the governor was here, and there was a group who made a mess that they were down here to ring that bell. But anyhow, I asked them if it was okay if we came over here too. And so here we are, out of the rain. So,
Where's the governor? Thinking, Barry.
we missed the governor. I didn't get a photo of him. Yes, I'm not sure. Done this so many times I should have it all memorized by now. I was thinking, you know. But you know, I have a little reading that I like to do at the start of this thing. You know, Veterans for Peace, we do have. I started this thing years ago. In the afternoon, they have a service over here, the Vietnam Veterans of America, and I love to go there. I love to be around these guys, but I don't totally agree with how they present, you know, war and such, you know, and we memorialize our fallen. And so I decided to start our own Veterans for Peace type of service. So I'm a little bit different. And so anyhow. Okay, so this Memorial Day honors, VFP honors all war dead. Originally called Decoration Day, Memorial Day is a commemoration of U.S. citizens who died while in military service. Originally enacted after the American Civil War, is a historical reminder of the virtues and values that our country has believed to be worth fighting for: equal rights, democracy, freedom. It is a day to mourn all who have died in war, a day to remember all the victims, the vast majority of whom are brothers and sisters who by accident of birth were born on the receiving end of bombs, drones, and occupations. Mourn them, mourn our comrades, mourn the dead and the wounded, the human beings who came back dehumanized because of what their government sent them to do. Mourn the suicides, mourn those who suffer at home without health insurance, homes, jobs, food, because of all the financial resources reported the war. Mourn the environment. And as we mourn, let us also give pause and renew our commitment to end the killing and suffering caused by war. I'm going to call forward now our local chapter president, Mike McDonald, to have a few words for us. Mike.
Thanks, Barry, for organizing this every year. I'm going to read some words written by Cynthia Orange, and she's just a great writer, and I think she just says it better than I ever could. Honoring all those scarred by war. History tells us that the two major events we observe in May, Memorial Day and Mother's Day, are both linked to the Civil War. In 1868, May 30th was originally called Decoration Day, a day to decorate the graves of soldiers who lost their lives in the bloodiest of our nation's wars. And in 1870, 5 years after the Civil War ended, Julia Ward Howe conceived Mother's Day as a day in which mothers could come together and protest their sons killing other mothers' sons. It seems our wise ancestors gleaned how important it is to acknowledge the inevitable grief and cries of women that burst forth in the wake of war, any war. Each Memorial Day, I'm reminded of the famous lines from Archibald MacLeish's poem, The Young Dead Soldiers. The young dead soldiers do not speak. They say our deaths are not ours, they are yours. They will mean what you make them. They say whether our lives and our deaths were for peace and a new hope, or for nothing, we cannot say. It is you who must say this. They say, we leave you our deaths, give them their meaning. We were young, they say. We have died. Remember us. MacLeish's words remind me of our family's first visit to the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C., when our daughter was in high school. It struck me as a large, dark wing of death carved into the earth. We walked together down the gradual slope to read the names of dead soldiers, etched in the smooth granite in the order in which they died. Jessica and I stood at each end of 1969-1970. Michael's tour of duty, that's her husband, Michael Orange. And I was taken aback by the enormity of the loss as I ran my fingers over the grooves of letters that form the names of all those young dead soldiers. These losses are tragic, but they are tangible, even touchable when you have a memorial, a cemetery marker, or an urn. A physical death can be mourned through ritual and in community, and the grief of those who mourn runs deep as family and friends gather to shed tears and memorialize their lost loved one. But what about Michael and the multitude of wounded warriors who didn't die, who carry their trauma and emotional scars deep within? What about Michael's best friend in Vietnam, who appeared to be well-adjusted and successful in the decades following his service? Yet, some 30 years after coming home from that war, he committed suicide by dousing himself with gasoline, tying himself to the steering wheel of his car and lighting a match after leaving a 14-page suicide note for his wife and sons. Page after heartbreaking page spoke only of his combat experience, an experience he never talked to her or anyone about. A casualty of war whose name will never be carved on the memorial we visited. Or what about Kevin and Joyce Lucy, who signed their emails with their names, adding the line, the proud parents of Corporal Jeffrey Michael Lucy, a 23-year-old Marine Corps reservist, forever, succumbed to the hidden wounds of PTSD on 6/22/04. When Jeff came back from Iraq, they watched their fund fall farther and tried everything to help him, but like so many loved ones, they became as hyper-vigilant as trauma survivors, but even their fierce love could not quell the horrors of war. I worry about our young veterans, like our friend with vacant eyes, who served one tour of duty in Afghanistan and 3 in Iraq. He came home, like so many other young soldiers, with a heart filled with pain and head filled with ghosts. 2 of his buddies were killed in action in Iraq, and 5 others committed suicide when they came home. He also came home with 4 Purple Hearts, a traumatic brain injury, and a raging case of PTSD. When Michael and I facilitated a discussion about the grief and loss from war, we asked those in attendance, what does war take from soldiers, veterans, and those who love them? Their responses included things like innocence, patriotism, love, relationships, money, jobs, sanity, security, tranquility, trust, courage, loyalty, feelings, self, purpose, laughter, family, God, country, dreams, future, youth, friends, pride. When trauma strikes a loved one, or when the effects of trauma build to a crescendo over time, family and friends are thrust into the role of a caregiver, a role they probably aren't prepared to assume. I remember telling a friend that I felt lost in the wilderness when Michael was finally diagnosed with PTSD. It is normal and sometimes necessary to put our lives on hold and focus on a traumatized loved one. Yet it is important to acknowledge how dramatically their trauma has changed our lives, making it our trauma too. We may choose to give up our time and piece of ourselves to tend to their psychological or physical wounds, but there is still loss in the midst of that choice. It took many years and many therapy sessions to understand that I, as the caring spouse of a Vietnam veteran with PTSD, had a need and a right to also grieve what I had lost. Being given permission to grieve was a gift that helped me cope with, then emerge from, the intermittent yet chronic depression I tried to ignore for such a long time. Grief is a messy process. And despite all the books and discussions about stages, it is usually not. It's non-linear process in which feelings can wash over at unexpected times, like when I read the McLeish lines, or visit a memorial, or try to comfort my husband when he wakes shaking from a nightmare. War changes us forever, all of us, veterans, spouses, children, healers, and citizens. I know the trauma and dose of war will always be with Michael, which means it will always be with me too. Vietnam will always sleep between us. We will soon celebrate our 46th anniversary, and each year our marriage continues to grow sweeter, more solid, and more realistic because we know what we almost lost. As a wise friend told me, trauma is always with us. We just learn to carry it differently. Ernest Hemingway wrote, "The world breaks everyone, and afterward, many are strong at the broken places." I give thanks that we are two of the lucky ones. On Memorial Day, we have a sacred responsibility to remember our soldiers and their sacrifices. We hold our young dead soldiers in heart and mind. Let's not forget the other victims of war, those for whom the only escape was suicide. The loved ones like Lucy's, who grieve in suicide's wake, those with PTSD, who will forever carry the weight of war, and those loved ones who struggle to help lift that heavy burden. It is our duty to give all these lives and stories meaning.
I should give you a little bit of an idea of what's going to happen for the next hour or so. So I should have done that at the beginning. But anyhow, so we just heard from Mike. Really just started. So we're going to hear a song from Bill McGrath, who's always so helpful, and we wouldn't pull this off without him every year. He gets here early and sets up his speakers and sings, and great help. So he's going to help. And then we're going to hear from, Veterans for Peace started a campaign a number of years called Full Disclosure. Our government, under the Obama administration, set aside $2 million to basically sanitize the history of Vietnam, and we felt that it was important that we counter that. So we have a program called Full Disclosure, and this year part of that initiative is that we're honoring and asking to hear voices of war resistors, the 50th anniversary for that. And so anyhow, we'll be hearing from Don Olson, and then we'll have some poetry reading by our great veterans poets, and we'll have a song, and then we're going to invite people that want to come forward and light an incense and remember a friend or loved one, or somebody that was lost to war. We invite you forward for that. And I ask that this not be a political statement. It's like it's a memorial event today, so I don't want like announcements of events and stuff. I just want you to come forward and remember somebody. And then we'll ring the bells, ring our Veterans for Peace bells, have a closing prayer, and then we'll have a closing with a bagpipe. So that's that. And so now let's hear from Bill.
Barry asked me to do this song by Eric Bogle, an Australian. Wrote this back right after the Vietnam War.
slowly did they sound the dead march as they lowered you down? Did the band play the last post in chorus? Did the pipes play the flowers of the forest? Did you leave a wife for a sweetheart behind? In her loyal heart is your memory enshrined. Oh, you died back in 1916. In her loyal heart, you're forever 19. While you a stranger without even a name, your image reserved behind some old glass pane. In an old photograph, torn, tattered, and stained, and colored to yellow in a brown leather frame. Did they beat the drum slowly? Did they play the pipe lowly? Did they pound the dead march? Have they lowered you down? Did the band play the last post in chorus? Did the pipe play the flowers in the forest? Sun beats down on these green fields of France. Rivers and to their poppy stems. Trenches have vanished long under the plow. No guns or fire, no one's firing now. But here in this graveyard, there's still no man's land. Rows of white crosses in mute stand. To man's indifference to his fellow man, and the whole generation was butchered and damned. Did they beat the drum slowly? Did they play the pipe lowly? Did they sound the dead march as they lowered you down? Did the band play the last post in chorus? Did the march play the flowers in the forest? Now I must ask you, young William McCry, who the men who died here nobody died. Did they really believe when you told them the cause? Did they really believe that this war would end war? The sorrow and the sadness, the glory, the shame, the killing and dying, it was all done in vain. For William McBride it has happened again and again and again and again and again. Did they beat the drum slowly? Did they play the pipe lowly? Did they sound the dead march? Have they lowered you down? Did the band play the last post in chorus? Did the pipes play the flowers in the forest?
Thank you.
Just going to read this before we bring up our next speaker. The Full Disclosure Campaign is a Veterans for Peace effort to speak truth to power and keep alive the anti-war perspective on the American war in Vietnam, which now is proceeding a series of 50th anniversary events. It represents a clear alternative to the Pentagon's current efforts to sanitize and mythologize the Vietnam War and to thereby legitimize further unnecessary and destructive wars. This year, the campaign is featuring stories of war resistors. Andy Furman over here did one of the stories. We have invited Don Olson to tell a bit of his history of resisting the war in Vietnam. Don, local KFI man, most of you probably know Don.
Thank you. As I was thinking about what to talk about, I guess I boiled down a lot to much of my time of the 60s was trying to be brave enough to live up to what I thought I should be doing. And because it was such a time of conflict over all the myths and all the ideas of manhood and all the ideas of military service. When you grew up and you knew you had this sort of democracy hanging over you at all times that would come down. was you had deferments. And I tried going to Air Force ROTC 2.5 times, I would say. It really wasn't for me. And it wasn't until I started to give up my career aspirations. This was after I gave up my idea to go into the government service. I was going out to the National Security Agency and to go to Vietnam in a civilian capacity for the Agency for International Development. It wasn't until I really really retooling in my understanding of history, the radical historians which were like exposing all these things here about, oh yeah, that makes sense. And so I started to see that there was a justification not to go in. It started to give you intellectual argument. And I think it was really interesting too. We lived in the 60s with a culture of resistance. So many people kind of say, oh yeah, the draft resistance was so good. It was very good. But we were living at the times it was started off by the civil rights movement. It started off by the women's liberation movement. It was the American Indian movement was forming on the streets of Minneapolis. Gay liberation. All of these different things. The ecology movement in the 1970s sprang up. And like it was like a continually whoa! So we started to see what how do we deal with this in a nonviolent way? And so we came up with having the idea of draft counseling because the government really wasn't counseling people about what they legally were available for deferments or exemptions. And then also pushing the resistance, mass non-cooperation. It took me a few draft card turn-ins before I could turn in mine because I was too afraid to kind of do something like that, which was then illegal. I burned a month of the Pentagon demonstration overnight. And stayed there during all the what the newspaper lied about what was going on at the Pentagon back in 1967. So you start to get some intellectual backbone and fortitude. And so I organized a lot. We organized through the Twin Cities Draft Information Center and on campus, students did selective service. And just to let people know because everybody was alone out there. And have people come together and have a culture of resistance to support you. I mean, we used to sing that song, you got to go down that valley, that dark valley, and you got to go there by yourself. If you can go, we're going to have all these other people there. So Minnesota really developed. We were constantly 100 guys a week. And we were doing both draft and military. And every day people were starting to refuse induction. If there was more than that, 15, 20, sometimes 25 refusing one day, we'd have a demonstration. And it got to the point where in 69, 70, and 71, more than half of all federal prosecutions for the state of Minnesota were for selective service violations. And they only covered a small portion because we had a great adult support system. We had lawyers, we had doctors that would help out. So it was like this whole community thing. And as I didn't mention refusing much, but by then I was 26. I got some grief down there that in the recruiting side, intake side, wanted to hang me from the ceiling because I was telling people, you could go if you want. In fact, every day we went down to the, and we could get people down there at 6 a.m. to hand out flyers. If you don't want to go, we can help you. We can find different ways you can do it. And if you do go in, don't let it push you around because you do have rights, even if you are in the military, until you don't. We never saw this difference. We made common cause when the first people came back from Vietnam and from BBA. We made common cause with them too. We worked closely with them. Kind of only strengthened our resolve to do this. And as we have reached, as the movement had reached more and more of this draft resistance, there was a movement then to escalate the nonviolent opposition to the war. These were the draft programs. It was done a lot by the Catholic left, and it spread around. I was part of one here in Minnesota. This was after, back in February 28th of 1970, when the Minnesota State Circuit Service, the Ramsey County, and the Hennepin County were all had their registration forms destroyed one night. They didn't like that. They really flooded in FBI agents. And after this great student strike against the war in Cambodia in 1970, these guys would fall down and they decided we would come and take things outside. And lo and behold, there were FBI agents in 3 of the places. But at a bottle shop, and where all the files were destroyed. And for years, people came up to me and thanked me because the idea we had behind it is if we didn't want to know what we did, we didn't have to because we could make our own decisions. And that's what the free and democratic society should be about. Not people forcing religion. And we were convicted to this in the trials. We go to U.S. Memphis and the federal prisons. There's different levels of federal prisons. There's medium, scary, which is a sandstone where a lot of people there. Because there's enough people there that they didn't want too many, they sent more and more to Springfield, Missouri, U.S. Medical Center for Federal Prisoners behind us. Because they know if there are too many political contributions, they have things go wrong. During World War II, there was the resistance there who brought about desegregation in the prison system in World War II. And that was the unpopular war for resistors and people. And some of those long-lived people who persevered in that. And being in prison was, I had 21 sentences, I had 5 years sentence. And it was, they started getting so many from Minnesota. And people, all the other people, after this, says, well, I was regular prison in the morning. What? I'm from Minnesota. They started coming down there, but they were getting, after my 5 years sentence, they said the earliest draft was 4 and 3, it was 18 months. Because of the community feeling about it, but that was down to 6 months, 3 months, 2 months, and at the end of the war, Miles Gordon was having people sit for 2 hours in the U.S. Marshal's office. So the idea of popular resistance, people that keep going, took over and affected by the Chinese finally came to see. And then we did have some people who had post-traumatic stress, you might say, in Germany. There was some, he had a longer sentence. And he did several years. A lot of guys that got out, they would dream about being in prison for every night for a year. And some people got very nervous. I myself, recognized it when I got out. I had this invisible shield. I wasn't just this happy about taking whatever. But you had the shield because you had so many people who always got that shield. Running some kind of a con game and all that. So you had to be tough. And I was a tiny bit, a little bit older than somebody, and I would tell people how you, if you didn't, you So it was all of us together that did this. And here we are, still carrying on.
Very heroic acts that he did. He saved some lives. Okay, we've got some great poets in our group. Maybe you don't know that. But now you're going to find out about it. We got Chante Wolf going to come forward. Stefan. Last name Stefan.
I can't either. So,
I can't pronounce it.
How's everybody? All right. I'd like to read a poem from my book, one of my books. It's called Prayer. After the war, I started to walk through dark rooms to find a prayer to believe, a breath of mercy to blow down for my black memory, for my disturbed sky, to draw me up so I can look down and find the pieces lost among the dead, to remove the stain of our fury that blessed the jungle's green, where blood once washed it into red. To see the prayer written in the eyes of all those left behind. To hold them until we remember nothing but light and die into a grace as the prayer that can never be denied. This poem is by a friend of mine, Bruce Weigel. He just got back from Vietnam, and I'd like to read this. It's called Elegy. Into the sunlight they marched, into dog day, into no saints day, and were cut down. They marched without knowing how the air would be sucked from their lungs, how their lungs would collapse, how the world would twist itself, would bend into cruel angles. Into the black understanding they marched until the angels came, calling their names. Until they rose, one by one, from the blood. The light blasted down on them. The bullets sliced through the razor grass, so there was not even time to speak. The words would not let themselves be spoken. Some of them died. Some of them were not allowed to. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Move the mic down. Thank you.
Better? Yes. Okay. So this is for a young man that we knew in Spain. It wasn't a war, but his own. Sheep piss breeze mingles with jet fuel through the sluggish night, as if a Komodo dragon's belly dragged the hours like nails across the chalkboard. When around 3 a.m., Airman Jameson, letter in hand, ate the muzzle of his M16 and went home with a flag on behalf of a grateful nation. This one is dedicated to the 475th Quartermaster Group of Daharan, February 25th. King 5, where I was stationed, we had our sirens go off, everybody scrambled, and this is what happened. My guilt is entombed in this memory. King 5 sirens quiver, incoming. Daharan is unconsciously off key. Missile passes 5 like a shooting star. Penetrates in starburst on Daharan. We cheer, take selfies. They pose naked with wings of despair. We continue poker games. They inhale flaming fiberglass and shrapnel. Our music resumes. Their rescue lights dance with death off broken glass. I hesitate with superficial letters home. Dying, they beg. Please, don't forget. Few slept until the next dawn.
Hello. This one I called Agent Orange, White, and Blue. While the enemy was digging hidden underground caves to hide from the United States' systematic chemical war that forced out the guerrilla, the smart men of war forgot or intentionally allowed their own sons to stand naked above, breathing the aged brother's stench. I am now the son of Dioxin, and you shall see me groping out of hidden underground caves looking for you, Uncle Sam. Don't get me wrong, I'm proud to have been a veteran, but after Vietnam and during Vietnam, I woke up and realized war was a futile aspirations of time, and I worked against it. 1984, I went with Veterans for Peace down to Nicaragua, and we released 300 Mosquito Indians who were Contras in association with the CIA and Ollie North, the United States government fighting Nicaragua, and had them released. At this time, we're talking about Memorial Day. And as a Dakota, you hear all the time that we're here on Dakota land, and we are. This land right here that we are standing on, that this government building is on, and all these memorials on, we call Wabasha Hill. Underneath here is underground caves that goes to all the water throughout here. It goes all the way over to the mountains, the Indian mountains on the east side. We are working to get that declared a cemetery. It was put inside of a park. And as a Dakota, it bothers me. We have a sacred site over there, one of the places where we came out of the earth, in the underworld, over 10,000 years ago. And that cave, it gets the name of Carver because he discovered it, so-called. But we had signs up there from age-old times. And it's been desecrated. Those graves have been desecrated. But that's holy ground over there. Wakan Tipi means holy home, home of the spirits. Badote, where the rivers come together, has been a sacred place to us. I've seen where Republicans have
resisted and punished the Historical Society for saying Fort Snelling at Bedote. That's not changing the title of Fort Snelling. They were used, some veterans, as an excuse to say that this is some kind of revisionist. That's not revisionist. That's correcting the mistakes of the past. And as veterans, I challenge you, as we that have kind of woke up and realized peace is more important than war, that we resist this kind of thinking. Look at Bedote. Bedote Makaska was a name we used for centuries before even Minnesota. And people are coming around and saying we should call it Calhoun, who never came even to Minnesota. That, they're saying, is some kind of revisionist also. But I mean, I feel in my mind that we need, as veterans that went to war and realized that there's a war going on now against Mother Earth. There's a war going on here in the United States where lies are becoming more important than truth, that violence is more important than peace. Hate is better than love. I disagree with that. And I challenge all of us to start working towards protecting this and changing this world. And I applaud you all for all your efforts that you're doing in Venezuela and for all the rights of Native people and for goodness. Because that's what's important today. We have to challenge ourselves to become new. This land was not manifest destiny that God gave Europeans and their descendants the right to rule. It brought everybody here to the land of the American Indian people to learn how to live in a higher order. And we haven't achieved that yet. We have to truly become family and realize our differences are minimal. We have common things. We breathe the same air. We live at the same time. Our people are born and die here together. We're family. This is our land. Let us begin to live like that. And regardless of corporations and militaries and politicians, we as common people need to stand up and start living and acting as we should. I'm proud to be a veteran, and I will continue the rest of my life to be proud and working for truth. I thank you all.
Thanks so much, Bill. Okay, we're gonna hear that song from our friend Bill.
That group that was here before, an hour ago, they were pretty good singers. Some of you probably heard they did God Bless America and some other stuff like that. But I know you guys can sing too. I've heard a lot of you sing. So we're gonna commemorate Pete Seeger a little bit. He would be 100 years old if he was alive this year.
Long time passing, where have all the flowers gone? Long time ago, where have all the flowers gone? Young girls pick them everyone. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn? Where have all the young girls gone? Long time passing. Where have all the young girls gone? Long time
You guys can really sing. Keep doing it.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Oh, man, really? Picking on fire. Okay, I want to now invite those who feel so inclined to come forward and say a name or remember somebody. I just want to start it off. We rang bells a couple of months ago for a guy, Leo, I can't even say his name, these Polish names or whatever they are. Kavaskis? But anyhow, Leo died of orange-related illness after a lot of suffering from Agent Orange. So I remember Leo. I'm not going to be somebody else to do it. We also lost Pat Downey from our group in this past year, a great peace worker. And so I want to remember those two.
I'd like to remember my dad today, Russell Theodore Wood. My dad never talked about the war, twice I think. He told me when he was 18, he wanted to go and join the Marines. And then I asked him, I said, Dad, I said, did you ever shoot anyone? And he said, son, I'm really embarrassed to say this, but I did, and I felt really good. Because I sighted him in my rifle, and I watched him fall down. And I got one. And then he told me a little bit about going into a foxhole over in Saipan or somewhere. He was in the Marines, and their job was to go to the islands, and they had to hit him. And he said he killed a man with a bayonet. And he spent his life fighting post-traumatic stress. And he was a curious sort of man. He was a humanitarian psychologist. He had these deep war wounds. And I just wanted to remember my dad today. I love you, Dad. And I hope I see you again sometime.
I would like to remember my late brother-in-law, Donnie J. Sundstrom, who served in Vietnam from 69 to 71. And after I married his sister, I did not serve in the war, but we spent a lot of time together, Donnie and I did. And I would ask him, what did you do over in Vietnam? What was it like? He would always say, oh, I never saw much action, and he would let it go at that. But yet Donnie, over the years, he struggled to retain a job. He couldn't save his marriage even after 1 year of marriage. And finally, he became estranged from our family. We lost contact with him. But then he passed away, and as we were going through his effects, we found a box in his drawer with pictures of him in Vietnam, of people he knew. I'm sure some of them are dead. But what we also found was a Bronze Star, and he had never told anybody that he was awarded a Bronze Star. And yet, we never knew that. None of us knew that. He never even told his parents. But now we realize that Donnie was a victim of the Vietnam War, and we didn't know that when he was living. So in memory of Donald J. Sundstrom.
I remember today a Facebook friend of mine, a victim of war, Lee Farris. Although we never met in person, through the technologies that we're all using, on the internet, we developed a very warm relationship. Reed was born in Kafrville in the Reed province in Syria. When the demonstrations broke out in 2011, Reed took his camera, photographed them, and sent them around the world. When the bullets started flying, Reed reached for his pen. Reed reached for a magic marker. Reed reached for a paintbrush. And Reed started painting banners with incredible wit and sarcasm, asking for peace and justice for Syria. His banners, known as the Bell banners, and you can see them on the internet, became world famous and became the leader of a media center in Bell. When sometimes there were grammatical errors on those banners, I would send Reed a note telling him about the English mistakes that were made, and he thanked me for them, and in return, Reed sent me advice on how to make good banners and placards for our peace demonstrations here in Minnesota. Reed was absolutely despised by the Assad regime. He was also despised by ISIS and by Al-Qaeda, and many attempts were made on his life. Last November, one of them succeeded. Reed was assassinated in broad daylight in Bell in Idlib, probably by an Al-Qaeda faction, although it's not certain. You know, as Americans, we need to pay particular attention to the crimes of our government, and right now, the vicious threats of the Trump regime against the people of Iran and Venezuela are very important for us to recognize. But I also ask you to recognize the pain and suffering of the civilians in Reed's hometown in Idlib, Syria, which today itself, is under bombardment by the Assad and Russian forces. Thank you.
Bolda? My name is John Barone. I just got back from France. I marched under the Arc de Triomphe with my grandfather, Walker Harkness. He was there and helped liberate France in World War I. I remember Ronnie Roberts, who played baseball with me, who died in Vietnam. He's on the wall in Illinois, which is where I'm from. I did sprinkle tobacco at Omaha Beach. And I brought back some sand, which I will give to my nephew. But my other purpose for coming here is I wanted to do something for Barry. Barry's been organizing this thing for many, many years. And I want to acknowledge Barry. I made a special tobacco bundle for Barry. And since he was out there at Standing Rock, I also have a medallion here with Custer on one side and City Bowl on the other side. You know who took care of that one. And there's also a hawk feather in here. As he visited me one night not too long ago, and he was under the bird feeder, so I know he was up to no good. But I have a hawk feather here, and this is for Barry, and I want to thank him.
I'd like to remember my mother who died on a Friday. She's a very unassuming woman and made a lot of contributions to our world. I want to especially remember her when she went to Japan after World War II to help with reconstruction in Japan. And then she also went to the Philippines after World War II to help with reconstruction. I'm very proud of what she did. And with help of peace, so I'll let you know.
Hi. I want to remember Dick Mishuk, a junior at St. John's Prep School with me back in the early 60s. He left the priesthood studies joined the Marines, went to Vietnam, and he never came back. I looked for him on the wall. It took a long time to see his name. I want to remember the young men that were drafted with me in 1965 on December 27th. We all went down to Fort Leonard, Missouri. I did well in the testing and stayed at advanced, I remember the wording, corporal, with a bunch of guys from Brooklyn, weren't going to take any crap from a couple of hit boys from St. Paul. The rest of them went out to Fort Lewis, Washington, with the 25th Infantry Division, and half of those guys from my neighborhood died in Vietnam, and I'm really pissed about it. I want to remember these two women. I don't remember their names, but the one is an attorney who's struggling for women in, I believe it's in Iran. I don't remember her name. You may remember she was talked about. She's undergoing torture because she's standing up for the rights of women. And the other one is the woman from Saudi Arabia, who's been given a sentence of 1,000 lashes because of her standing up for women's rights. Women's rights. So I want to remember those two women martyrs for the rights of women.
William Bagby, a good man, my father, and a peacemaker if there ever was one.
I'd like to remember Andrew Wilkart, the young man from Rosemont, Minnesota. I never knew Andrew, but his father told me after his death that he cried every day, and I'm sure he continues to.
I'm here to remember Dennis Brophy, a classmate and a friend. We remember how Time magazine every week, not Time, but Life magazine would have tons of pictures, some of them a little too lurid to be published. And I came across one day in the luncheonette across from our church. Saw this picture and I said, doesn't that look like Danny Brophy? And other people came and looked. His body was lying in a deep trench, and there was water in that trench. And I, right away, talked about his parents. I got to know. I talked to the pastor. Make sure his parents have been notified. They can't find out by seeing this picture. It was just awful. When the Vietnam Memorial was created, I couldn't wait to get there to find his name and to remember it for all time. So, in memory of Dennis Brophy. Thank you.
Private First Class, Norrell Jacobs, discharged November 3rd, 1946, the day before his 20th birthday, my father.
I would like to remember Carrie Ann Bucher, 2 tours in Iraq.
I want to remember Joseph Losey, who went on patrol in 1968 and didn't come back. He was from Philadelphia.
I want to honor our father was in World War I, and I claim sometimes he has species arrogance, and he fought there with the great, magnificent horses. So on behalf of the great creatures of the earth, we are grateful also. Forgive us for our species arrogance and help us to birth peace.
I'd like to remember Donald Gurton, Vietnam veteran. He passed away a couple of weeks ago on his 73rd birthday.
I have a number of friends whose names are on the wall, who I'm not going to say right now, but I would like to remember not only myself, but all the veterans that paced the floor before that son of a bitch went into Kuwait and into Iraq in 1991 for defensive purposes only. We paced that floor, and we paced that floor, and we said, not again. Look what they did. Let's keep fighting.
I want to remember my best friend Donald Hammers. In 6th grade, he moved into Mankato and enlightened my life greatly. John moved away, went to Forest City, Iowa, and then he moved back. And we were great friends in high school. And I went on the service, of course, and he went on to college. And then when he got out of college, he joined the Marines. And then his name was Donald Harry Lammers. He was an unforgettable man. Son, brother, husband, friend, and classmate. His sister Diane described Don as the glue that held the family together while growing up. And they were very close to that family, Diane. Don, he was born on March 29th, 1944, the same year I was. And you can find a lot of your friends on Facebook, and I found this today because I woke up on Memorial Day, and I was very moved by all you said here. So I just want to remind myself and everyone of what close friendships mean and how we should enjoy them while we have them.
So this is for all of our brothers here in this country, but also in the country that we were in fighting at the time that I was in the war in Vietnam. So for all those citizens of the world, for all of our brothers. Dear brother, perhaps if you were here, you could explain that there are no heroes in war, that it is only a romantic myth. For those who have not been there, or a further perpetuation of that falsehood, which led far younger brothers and sisters to be slaughtered
as you have to your brother. Dear brother, you may have also offered to the uninitiated that thanking you for your service only confuses your thinking, thus halting any possible healing you may have carved from life had you survived this battle. Because life at war inevitably leads to atrocity. Perhaps if you had returned to us, dear brother, you did have the support of your loved ones, community, and nation, unlike so many of us. And dear brother, if you come home, would you have sorted out all you've done and seen to create a new life? Or might you have succumbed to your moral wound, as so many of our brothers and sisters have? Dear brother, on Memorial Day, we might have praised youth. There is no nobility on that dark field, only murder, brutality, fear, and survival. Maybe, dear brother, you could ask for veterans on Veterans Day at the wall, to pray at the wall instead of the mall, for peace and a return to Armistice Day. Dear brother, will you be living in isolation still while the bands are summoned to elevate the escapade that took you from us? You must forgive them, dear brother. They know not what they do, even as they try the stupidity and horror of one driving a 4th of July car for visions of virgins in heaven. And dear brother, was it an enemy explosion that took you from us, or was it an errant bomb? I've marked with silent shock, quote, this bomb will kill your brother, unquote. Had I grounded the aircraft, we might laugh today. Rest easy, brother, for I shall not.
I'd like to remember Van Silan, a Cambodian village woman who remembered the bombings during the war. She worked for her whole life trying to help rebuild peace in Cambodia, including participating in the leading peace walk for 27 years every year. She worked with these monks. She lived a life devoted to peace.
Anybody else? Okay. Come on.
I remember a Korean War veteran who is now gone. I was told by my father that Chesley Hibbert of Austin, Minnesota, killed an enemy soldier in a foxhole in Korea. And it was a very sad thing for Mr. Hibbert, and I believe for my father also.
Anybody else? Okay, we're almost done. Bell ringers, come forward, please. Have a bell ringing, and then we'll do a closing prayer, and then we'll hear from our next.
Each Armistice Day, also known as Veterans Day, which was the war to end wars. We take that seriously, and we work towards that end. Instead of the 21-gun volley, we ring bells. Some of these bells we made ourselves. We do this today also, and also when it's time for us to go. Memorial Day may be a day to shoot a weapon. It may very well be, to remind us what war is. But at the same time, I don't know who all read the article in the editorial in the Minneapolis paper today, one of the better ones I've read in a long, long time from that paper about working for peace. Please read it, and you'll see why I ring the bells. Thanks for coming.
On the 11th day, the 11th month of the 11th hour, bells were rung throughout the world. War had had its day.
Just have this, I know we have different religious beliefs and whatnot, I don't know if you go, but I just have this prayer that reads. All nourishing God, your children cry for help against the violence of our world. Where children starve for bread and feed on weapons, starve for vision and feed on drugs, starve for love and feed on videos, starve for peace and die murdered in our streets. Creator God, timeless preserver of resources, forgive us for the gift that we have wasted. Renew for us what seems beyond redemption. Call order and beauty to emerge again from chaos. Convert our destructive power into creative service. Help us to heal the woundedness of the world. Liberating God, release us from the demons of violence. Free us today from the disguised demon of deterrence that puts guns by our pillows and missiles in our skies. Free us from all demons that blind and blunt our spirits. Cleanse us from the justifications for violence and war. Open our narrowed hearts to the suffering and the poor. Abiding God, loving renewer of the human spirit, unfold our violent fist into peaceful hands. Stretch our sense of family to include our neighbors. Stretch our sense of neighbor to include our enemies until our response to you finally respects and embraces all creation as precious sacraments of your presence. Hear our prayer of your all starving children. Amen.
Okay.